Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Undersecretary Colby, and for your service. I want to thank you for your leadership and your fortitude to take on, in my view, this foreign policy blob and these entrenched experts that seemingly never go away in this town, who've been continually wrong about so many things over the years. And I think the 2026 National Defense Strategy acknowledges a bunch of things, but certainly that after the Cold War ended, there was never really an adjustment, whether it was trade policy or foreign policy. You know, the idea was that we would help Europe get back on their feet, Japan get back up on their feet with these unfair trade deals, a defense umbrella that, quite frankly, Europe didn't really ever pay for, and that's changing. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it reflects an urgent need on the ground for our foreign policy for disciplined realism, rather than bouncing around from Wilsonian pet project to Wilsonian pet project, that there isn't really a strategy. And I think that the NDS does outline a strategy, because the American people are certainly concerned about the things that are happening in their communities, the influx of drugs. And so when people tried to point out some inconsistency with taking out, you know, these cartel boat runners, I actually had a fake news reporter characterize them as fishing boats. But I think it also, you know, requires us to take a look at our foreign aid too, and making sure it's aligned with these America First principles. I want to ask you, as it relates with limited time, I think your presence at the NATO ministerial meeting and the Munich Security Conference thereafter hopefully was a signal to our European allies that you're willing to engage with them and have thoughtful but constructive dialogue. How are you communicating to our allies this new reality that in order for America to continue to be strong, that they have to step up in a much more meaningful way? I mean, we've heard a lot about the 5%, but the 5% can't be for pensions, right? It has to be for munitions and the defense of their own continent. How are you communicating that, and what's your feedback?
Well, thank you very much, Senator. Really appreciate it, and I think you put it well. And I'd actually like to go back to something, if I could, connect it to Senator Reed's comments about the tone. I would say the tone of this document is not partisan, but rather a refutation of a post-Cold War. I mean, I think I'd really like to stress that point, that I think during the Cold War, the substance of this strategy is much more akin to what you would have seen in something like a flexible response document, or Schlesinger, or Harold Brown, or Cap Weinberger, and of course the Secretary gestured.
Wouldn't we be better off as a country if in 1993 we would have had something like this?
I think so. Yeah. I think we got a bit hubristic, well, very hubristic in some cases, and frankly, that you know, this is not saying it's only Democrats. We're pointing at ourselves as well. And I think part of the communication here, and this relates back to Senator Reed's question as well, is to be clear. And there is I mean, as people point out, Bob Gates went to NATO in 2011, and you know, Panetta said it, and whoever, and President Barack Obama said it, et cetera, and we were politely ignored because it wasn't seen as credible. And so this strategy is designed to have an impact on real behavior. And in order to do that, you have to break through to people. And sometimes that's being pretty sharp and direct, not with the point of being sharp and direct to be insulting, but to actually get through to people, actually because the best friend is one who tells you when you need to change something. And that gets to your question, Senator, about talking to allies. I talk to the allies all the time. And I talk to Europeans. Any European comes through, I talk to them often privately. But I think the point of what we're trying to do with the visit in Brussels, and you know, with the Secretary's full support and State Department and others, White House, was to say, all right, I think the message has been conveyed. We're obviously going to continue it, but now people are no longer fighting the scenario. People are willing to step up. I had great meetings with the German Minister of Defense, for instance, who is a social democrat, but he's been a leading, probably the #1 figure, along with the Chancellor, in raising Germany's defense spending. You have Polish government of both types, obviously. You know, the Scandinavian governments. So our view is we want to work towards a results-oriented goal, which I think, Senator, you put it really, really so well, which is common sense. Which, I mean, there's, you know, and I've had these conversations of how does it make sense for Americans to be spending 3.5, 4, 5%, 6% of GDP, and wealthy Europeans to be spending 1%? That just makes no sense. The Minister of Defense of New Zealand, who's a real leader on this, she said it a lot over the summer. You know, since the Cold War, we all dismantled our militaries, we put it into healthcare. The free ride is over. It's not that the alliances are over. The way you're going to save those alliances by making them relevant and equitable for Americans is by rebalancing. Not only is that what we're doing, that's what's happening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Schmitt.